Hi, I'm Laura Holson, and I'm here. Today we've got a special, I'm Laura Holson from the New York Times, and we have just the most special day today. We're with Bruce Davidson, who anybody who knows, say hi to everybody, Bruce.
Hello.
Yes. And we're here looking at his collection of photographs. Bruce is grew up in Illinois, but is really, aren't you kind of a native? You're a sidewalk? That's a good thing to be. And we're going to look at some of his photographs. For people who don't know him, which I'd be surprised if you don't, he is one of the foremost photography things that he's going to share with us today. So, Bruce, let's start.
All right.
So tell us.
New York when my parents moved to New York.
Really?
I've been there in New York ever since I was a teenager.
And someone just said to say hello to you. And people are watching your video. So tell us what we're looking at.
Well, what you're looking at here is
Okay.
the leader of the Brooklyn gang called
Right.
the Jokers.
Right.
And he was a feisty little kid. And when I took this picture, I wasn't so sure that I would survive it because he looked pretty angry.
Right. And so again, we're here with Bruce Davidson, and you photographed the Brooklyn gangs at what point in time?
In about a year.
In what year?
In 57.
In 1957?
And I spent 11.
Tell us about that face. Goodness knows, what's going on with his face?
Those kids were 14, 15 years old.
Uh-huh.
And they were pretty dangerous.
Were they? How were they dangerous?
They had gang fights in Prospect Park.
Oh, wow.
And he, as days and years went by, became notorious.
Uh-huh.
And that helpful to people
Wow.
who were on drugs. He
Right.
was a counselor. He was great.
Right.
So, but he lived a really difficult life.
Right. So the gangs, though, when you were out, you were, if I remember right, you were photographing them at the beaches, and it was. So what do you think of Brooklyn now? I think the only gangs are
Wall Street.
Wall Street gangs. I was thinking it's more mothers with strollers.
Yeah, right.
Right.
But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
they were really depressed teenagers. They were very. It was just before drugs came in,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very alcoholic. There was nothing in the neighborhood for them except their gang.
Right. What are we seeing in this photograph here? Let's look at this one.
Well, what they were doing here is, I remember, one of the members of their ilk
Yeah.
was going to join the military.
Oh.
Was going to go and become a soldier.
Yes.
So they threw a party for him, but he actually had no reason to do that except to get the parents to allow them to have a dance in the basement. Actually, they had no idea what it would mean
Yeah.
join the military.
So here's a question someone just sent in. They want to know what you think about modern photography, because you don't do digital photography, do you?
Not really. No.
No?
Well, I don't. No. Sometimes I incorporate the digital in manifest an image.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I'm an old-fashioned photographer. I have a darkroom. I make prints. I have analog cameras. I don't.
You use Leicas, don't you?
Leicas, Linhof, Hasselblad, whatever tool I need for a specific concept.
Yeah. And again, we're here live with Bruce Davidson, who's one of the foremost photographers. What family is
this? A friend
this?
of mine told me about a block in Spanish Harlem, which had a reputation of being very poor.
Right.
The tenements. And so I met with the Citizens Committee.
Uh-huh.
And
is this a Citizens? What's in this photograph here?
This is a photograph of 10 in this family.
Were they all living in one apartment?
Yes. And they said that photographers come to our neighborhood all the time and take pictures. We don't even see the pictures, and we see nothing change.
Right.
So I said, I work a little differently. I work more eye to eye. I would like to photograph the largest family in the community with my large camera.
Oh,
and
interesting.
They said, okay, and I did it. And then I presented the picture, and then they gave me permission
Uh-huh.
to photograph housing that was
Right.
substandard.
Yeah, and this is a very iconic work. Let's move around the table. This was controversial, though, too, and some people thought that it was a specific view of Harlem. Were you looking for a specific view?
You mean with this photograph?
With just the series, because you worked on this a year, am I right?
For 2 years.
Oh, 2 years? Oh.
2 years.
Mhm.
About 4,000 images.
Holy cow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and towards the end of the project, I learned that cousin of someone who was helping me there wanted to be a model
Mm-hmm.
for Vogue magazine.
Yes.
So I took a picture of her nude with her daughter.
Oh, and this is
and
her.
submitted it to Vogue, and they ran the picture, so she got her wish. She had a full-page picture
Wow.
of her with her daughter.
So this photo ran.
At any rate, during the
Mm-hmm.
2 years, I was in many apartments that were broken down,
Mm-hmm.
you know, holes in the wall,
Right.
rats flying around. And then I came upon this young child, she's probably 10 years old at the time, and her contacted me. She found the picture, and she actually, and her husband came with her, and she's a professional.
So this woman in this bird, how did you find her? We have a question.
First of all, I used a big camera
Right.
and a tripod and a strobe. And I was a photographer,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to them.
Yes.
And
Right.
because they made these photographs in a book,
Right.
and the book was shown to the mayor.
Right.
And
Exactly.
things began to focus,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with businessmen and politicians and photographs.
So we have a couple of questions live from our audience. One is, what is your favorite lens?
Lens?
Yes.
It's my favorite lens.
That's a thinking lens, right?
Yeah, it's an inner lens.
It's an inner lens, right?
Yeah, it's an inner lens, and it changes
Uh-huh.
as you grow into world, life, people,
Right.
aging. The inner eye is the important one.
That's it's true, especially it's a thinking eye where people think that the camera is what's important, but it's the mind that's important.
Yeah, the mind, the body, and the spirit.
Right, exactly. So let's kind of move along here. This Susan Stack says this. We have one of our listeners says that you're her hero.
I'm her hero.
Yeah. You want to say hello to Susan?
Susan, I'm glad that you're my hero. You're my hero.
Oh.
Also.
Oh my gosh! So and because you really spend a lot of time understanding people.
And understanding myself and,
Yes.
and things that I need to change and improve on.
So we're here again live with Bruce Davidson and looking at some of his photographs. What's going on in this photograph?
Well, there was a time when the subway was just miserable, really
Yes.
miserable. And so I started to take pictures in black and white
Mm-hmm.
of whatever I saw, things I could probably go to.
Right.
And then we had a relationship with my little camera.
Uh-huh.
He's being seen. He's no longer an invisible man.
That's interesting,
He's
yes.
seen with his predicament.
Yes.
And I think we had a bonding, even though it was more like a 50th of a second.
Right. You spend years, actually, the subways are still miserable, but they didn't look like that as they did at that point.
They were pretty bad.
Yeah. What year was that?
Oh, let's see what it says on the back of the picture. Oh, this one doesn't have it then. I don't remember what year
Okay.
it was.
Okay. And
But
then,
it was a lot.
Uh-huh.
I started in black and white, then began to find a dimension of meaning in color. So
Right.
I switched to color, and the color became something else.
Yeah.
So I have two explorations.
Right. And who would you like to photograph? We have a question from someone. And who would you like to photograph now? If you could photograph anybody now, who would you photograph?
I'd like to photograph. What's her name? She's
An actress?
yeah. She's more than an actress. She's an exhibitionist.
Marina? No, I don't know. Is she in movies? Can you think of her
Yeah,
movies?
she's Lady Gugu, I think.
Oh, Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. I think she's amazing energy,
Oh,
and I would like to.
Right.
But I like to see her moving around.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Lady Gaga, if you're watching, you have a fan in Bruce Davidson.
Yeah, right.
Um,
This is sort of interesting.
oh, Central
I
Park.
spent about 4 years photographing in Central Park.
Mm-hmm.
The healing of water that heals.
Yes.
And I wanted to photograph the moon
Oh.
over the hand. So
How
I called
interesting.
the astronomer to tell me when would the hand be right with the moon, full moon.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I could do it with natural light. So I brought a strobe with me and an assistant. And the assistant would be on the far side of the statue, and I would say, and her name was Jan. Jan, flash, and then the shutter open, and behind me in the dark bushes, this is blackness,
Yes.
a man said, "Flash, Jan, flash." And I said to Jan, time to go home.
Oh, God. Yeah, exactly.
And I went back the next day by myself with natural light.
Right.
And I made this picture.
Wow, this is beautiful. I mean, for anybody who loves Central Park.
Comes into that.
What did you know? You also photographed. Like we've got a lot of photographs here of. These are some of the many photographs you've taken. But you also photographed the civil rights movement. You were on.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, what happened was I submitted the Brooklyn Gang photographs to the Guggenheim Foundation to photograph youth in America.
Yes.
Okay. And someone said to me, there's a bunch of young youth who are challenging segregation in.
Yes.
And I went down on a freedom ride.
Oh,
not
that would have been
knowing
amazing.
Quite what it was.
Yes.
At that time.
And the freedom rides, as we knew, were you can describe
with
with
1961.
Yes.
And that charged me. That
Right.
gave me a point of view and a need so I followed the civil rights movement for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yes. Yes.
And that was an education in itself.
And you were on the bus with the freedom. Everybody wants to hear you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So,